traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, becomes more mainstream and the benefits become more well known, smart entrepreneurs are repackaging something that was seemingly arcane and esoteric to be something more approachable. Today, I speak with Stephanie Tan, founder of Nooci, who's building a direct-to-customer brand that seeks to demystify and bring to market a more convenient and transparent TCM. Thanks everyone for joining the show today. Today we have Stephanie Tan, CEO and founder of Nooci. Nooci is a new wellness brand that's modernizing traditional Chinese medicine for women. Nooci in Chinese is pronounced Nooci, which means women's energy, and I think that really exemplifies the brand. Before this business, Stephanie has built a number of different fintech businesses, healthcare businesses. She was recently chief of staff of Avo Insurance, one of Hong Kong's first digital insurers. She also founded The Kinnet, a wellness center that promotes active aging, and was also the co-founder of Evercare Health, a home healthcare provider. Thanks, Steph, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Nooci is a new brand, but I'd really love to hear the story, straight from your mouth about the company's founding.
Yeah, so I founded Nooci in the middle of the pandemic. I was pregnant with my second child, and I, had crazy nasal allergies, and they were just acting up more than usual. And instead of taking my normal over-the-counter drugs, I knew I needed a natural alternative. And so I did a lot of research into the different herbs and really found traditional Chinese medicine. I grew up with TCM, and growing up in Hong Kong with TCM, my family, they did Tai Chi. My grandmother would make me TCM soups and teas every time my brother and I would be a little bit sick. So we grew up with TCM, but I never really understood TCM herbs. So it was really while I was doing all this research that I rediscovered the power of traditional Chinese medicine and the herbs. And in doing all this research, I was going to Manning's and Watson's, and I was also going online to take a look at which herbs would really benefit me. But I found the process really daunting and very confusing. And a lot, I spoke to friends, and I was like, how do you pick what products you take? And they all just said, oh, you just, I trust my salesperson. And I thought, well, if people like myself and friends, who have some, from a similar background who understand TCM, but, they didn't have access or that knowledge around TCM herbs, were experiencing this confusion, I thought there must be other women like this, who want a natural alternative that are similarly, daunted and confused. So I thought that, overall, I think that the industry just needed a new brand that can bring transparency around traditional Chinese medicine, and really bring out the benefits and where the herbs are coming from and the whole entire process around that. So with Nooci, we are making traditional Chinese medicine accessible and approachable to the modern woman.
That's great. For us, like younger Asian people, we do hear about this a lot from our parents and our grandparents. But how should we, as like a newer generation, as more westernized, how approach these kinds of medications, or these herbs, these traditional Chinese medicines? I mean, for me, it is very confusing. It is like listening to the salesperson. You kind of buy it. How did you go about researching and learning about this when you're getting started out?
Yeah, the herbal space is really, really confusing, and there's just so many herbs. And it's not just about the herbs, but it's also about the process the extraction to maximize the potency of the individual herbs, and where it's being processed and extracted. It was really working with our manufacturing partner, as well as our scientific advisory board, and together we formulate and we select our herbs. And in TCM, it's, a lot of time, majority of the times is you're mixing different blends together, blending different herbs together. And so with Nooci, we are really taking an East meets West approach to everything that we do. And this starts from the people on our team. So we have traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, as well as integrative health medicine doctors. And for the ingredients that we pick, we only pick essential herbs, and we pick TCM herbs as well as non-TCM ingredients that are clinically backed. And the way we formulate is we're taking these ingredients together, and research-backed ingredients, and we're mixing it with the Chinese medicine evidence-based practices to fuse, and so that when these herbs are mixed together, they're amplifying the results.
So interesting. And you built a lot of businesses in your time. As long as I've known you, you've been an entrepreneur. Starting a new business like this, what would you say is the most difficult part?
Not really. I guess like for us, one of the hardest parts was trying to figure out how to get our products into the US. There's, with COVID, there's supply chain issues. And I think there was a lot of unexpected delays in our products. And then finding out that certain packaging, it was delayed, or they didn't have it, or certain herbs that couldn't get into the US, or, there's so many different regulatory issues around, you have to think of, so our products are made in Japan. So we need to look at the regulatory issues in Japan, because all the herbs are, have different regulations there. And then you have to look at like how to get the product into the US, because they have all this regulation. And then the whole logistics of getting it there. So I think that really was one of the hard parts that, nobody had done before. And so I was just really learning as we were going, and we were just crossing our fingers trying to make timeline. Yeah.
That's amazing. And how did you figure all that out? Did you have consultants? Was it like boots on the ground? Like, how did it all come together in the end?
I had consultants, and we had to have a lot of consultants, actually. So we have to have consultants looking at our FDA labeling. We had to have custom agents bring us over to the US. We had to get, so because we are selling products in the US, we needed to get our manufacturer FSVP certified. So there are a lot of different moving pieces that nobody had, experienced before. And so it's just interesting. And now that we've had 3 products successfully make it across to the US, we're now in development of 2 other products launching later this year. So that whole process, we've got it down.
That's amazing. And you can just turn that into a little, factory and just keep coming out with new products. How do you market the products? I know you're going direct to consumer and you have a terrific website. Like, what is the main way that you're really bringing awareness and understanding of your product to the US market?
Yeah. So for us, building a community around Nooci is very, very important. So even before we launched product, we early on had developed a community. And this community was really, it was about educating our women and empowering them with this information. So we were taking this, age old ancient wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine across the different modalities and breaking it down for our community. So it was really about sharing tips and tricks in TCM, sharing recipes, making it fun and making it, relatable to a younger generation. And so we did a lot of that, and our community was really, really excited. And we were also tapping into what they were wanting. And so when we decided to launch our products, we launched with our first three, which is Renew, which is our women's longevity TCM drink, which tastes a little bit like green tea meets barley. It helps with immunity, and for me, it helped with my gestational diabetes. We also have our New Moon, which is our menstrual support, and then one of my favorites, which is New Air, and which is our nasal relief product.
My wife just got the longevity product, and she really likes it. So
Oh, amazing.
I'm thinking about giving it a try myself.
Yeah, you should.
But I will. And the community. When you talk about community, I found that's a super interesting topic. This is something that I've been talking about a lot with people on LinkedIn. Like, what is a community? And what form did your community take? Was it built around content? Was it built around discussion? I'd love to hear more about the community that you guys built.
We hope that Nooci can be the go-to TCM resource for everyone looking for anything TCM related, whether it's for herbs, maybe it's for exercise, also acupuncture. So anything TCM, we want Nooci to be that, go-to. So it's with our, and we early on engaged with influencers as well. And I think for us, one of the good learnings was that we thought, okay, let's just engage with different lifestyle influencers. And some of them are great, and some of them are they look great in their feeds, but they might not be as authentic to our brand. And so really getting to know your influencers, and making sure that they resonate. All of them, we made sure that they loved our product. They took our products before they signed on to be our ambassadors. But some are just, a natural fit for us. And I think that's really important. And when they love it, they'll do more than just what's written in the contract. And so I think that users and the followers really resonate with that. So we're really wanting to build a community of authentic, TCM explorers and lovers. And so that's on the, more of like the consumer side. And then also there is a community of experts that we are, reaching out to as well. So what we're hoping to do is really being that resource to bring, your consumer together with your TCM practitioner. I think for me to find TCM experts and practitioners or acupuncturists, it's really hard to find those people. And everybody's, some of them have an Instagram, or a lot of them have their websites and they have their blogs, but how can we bring this all together? And so right now we're doing a lot of outreach to really connect with TCM experts aside from just Nooci's scientific advisory board.
Amazing. That sounds really interesting, and what a great way to get your product out there. When you're starting the business, one of the biggest problems is funding, and this is not just I'm talking about with Nooci, but all of the other businesses that you've been a part of before. Like, what do you look for in an investor? What makes a great investor for a founder?
Yeah, I think for in looking at our investors, it's really important to have like-minded people on your team, and like-minded investors that can really support you and support the growth of your company in the direction. So when we reached out to investors, we really wanted to make sure that they connected with the idea. A lot of times, since we're pre-seed, you know, they were really just investing in me. A lot of my friends and family, um, and most of them, you know, have backgrounds in private equity or venture capital or family offices. So yeah.
Like-minded folks are really important. Otherwise, they're going to be hounding you all the time, right? And that's just a huge pain.
Yeah.
But aside from that, one of the biggest issues is the founding team as well. And you've built a number of founding teams. What are the qualities of a great team, especially when you're creating a brand new company, a brand new product?
As the founding team, I think that it's so important that we understand each other and that we're passionate about what we're doing. Um, there are so many times where, you know, Nooci is built, you know, we're in Hong Kong and we're building it for the US. So a lot of times we're on calls, you know, at 7 a.m. in the morning. There, you know, we're having calls in New York at 11 p.m. at night. There are no set times, right? And so our team, we're very flexible, um, and we're only like a WhatsApp away, right? So it's really being accessible, and you know, my team members can finish my sentences. I love them, and I think that I'm sorry that I always call you and I always WhatsApp and or Slack people, but I think that it all comes from heart first, and that we can really lean on each other, and at the same time that we're constantly you know, just throwing ideas out, brainstorming. If there's a great idea, like, you know, 11 p.m. at night, people messaging me, and so yeah, really, you know, leaning on each other and feeding off that energy, and just being really passionate and excited to create this new company and products.
Thanks for that. That's so interesting. I mean, like having a globally distributed team has got to be hard. But I mean, for yourself as the founder, you've there's got to be a lot of learnings that you've had from different businesses that you've started. What would you say are some of the skills and qualities of a good entrepreneur?
I am very heart first, and I think that's a typical Pisces. So I would say I get really excited very quickly, and I'm quite impulsive. And so, what I've learned across the many years of starting new things is, um, you know, the me today, I did a lot more homework before I actually like took that plunge, and I, you know, spent that first, spent my first dollars, into Nooci, right? Probably the younger me would have, you know, just gone for it and, you know, did less research. So I think that it's really important that you take risks as an entrepreneur, but at the same time that you do your homework, and you know, that you can step back and think through things, before you do like that. All right, let's just go do it, because it's so exciting, and I'm very much like that. And when I was young, I think I just was like, you only live once, and you do this. But today, I am more grounded, and yeah, take risks, but take calculated risks.
That's great. That's great. And as 20-year-olds, we often are like jumping headfirst into, some unknown, and it's super fun and exciting. But obviously, we all get burned once in a while, and we have to learn like that. So, what you said about taking calculated risks really resonates with me, because sometimes, it's you're in it for the long haul, right? Sometimes you start a business and you're like, oh, it doesn't really work, but it's going to take you 3 years to get in and out of this thing, right? And it's a good piece of advice that you have. Um, I mean, one of the things that is super interesting for founders is, or really tough about being a founder, is the stress, right? It's really interesting that you founded a company that helps people, live longer, live more healthy lives, especially when it pertains to mental health. Like, what do you do to, kind of take care of your mental health? And what advice would you give to other founders about, staying healthy in that regard?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think being an entrepreneur, it's so important to take care of your mental health, because you're in it for the long haul. So for me, I think practicing mindfulness and meditation is really important. I do yoga. Recently started doing Tai Chi, which I'm really enjoying. And it's just a time for you to slow down and to really hit pause. So for that hour of Tai Chi, for example, you can really center yourself and focus on the activity. And you just end the practice being much more refreshed, and you can go back to doing, what you were doing, right? But especially with working from home or working remote, and having kids around, everything starts blending together, and then you're always thinking about work at the same time. So really making sure that you can separate those activities, and giving my kids like that dedicated time, and giving my work the dedicated time. I think that's really important.
And having your own me time, right? And I'm not just talking about having your own quarantine in a hotel, but like, I'm really interested in the Tai Chi that you're doing. You're saying that you're really enjoying that. Like, how much Tai Chi do you do, and how has it like impacted your health, your physical health and your mental health?
Yeah, so actually, I just started Tai Chi 2 months ago. And I always thought it was a practice that we would see, my grandmother did it, and we would see older people doing in the park. So I never thought that I would, you know, at this age, be learning Tai Chi, right? But then I found that, my Tai Chi teacher is young and very hip, and she could break it down for me, and that I could relate. And it's just these very like serene movements, and it's the way you're breathing. We do it in my garden, and she tells me to face the plants so that I can like take in the energy of the plants. And it's just so relaxing, and it helps you center your mind. And I think that it really makes me, um, it just is a great relaxation tool, as well as I feel very rejuvenated after the practice.
That's cool. I think it's really cool also that, your product Nucci is really about TCM and living a healthy life, but in more ways than just the business, you're living it yourself. And I think that's really cool, that you're really exemplifying the brand and the ethos of your business.
Thank you. And I think that there's so much we can do to, bring TCM and a TCM lifestyle to a younger generation. Um, and I think what we need to do is just really make it approachable and relatable. And there are other modalities that are much more, in popular culture, such as acupuncture. Gua sha is all over TikTok. Bone broth is something that's, hitting the US. But, certain things like Tai Chi, or especially like TCM herbs, where it's an ingestible, and they're like, 500 plus different types of herbs. If we can bring, if we can demystify it, and we can break down, the tough parts to understand, and we can do that research for you, that's really where I think Nooci can make a difference and make an impact.
That's great. That's great. I just wanted to talk a little bit about on the business side, the finances. Every business has to have strong finances, whether it's through growth or through cash flow or profit. How does a company capitalize their business? I know there's many different ways, through investors, through loans, through, your own capital. In your experience, like, what are the pros and cons of different kinds of financing?
I think for Nooci, very early on, I wanted to um, not just self fund this. Um, I think we wanted to raise a friends and family round and potentially then go venture track. I think that for me, you know, having people invest into this idea and be excited about creating this company together really excited me, and also validates our product and our concept, right? So I really wanted to do it that way.
And it sounds like your goal is to grow this into something big, something that VCs and big time investors would be interested in. What are the goals that you have for the business in the short term in order to achieve that long term vision?
So with Nooci, we want it to be more than just a product. We really see it, and we are looking at building up our product line of supplements. So right now we have capsules, granules. We're expanding across our product lines. We have two more products coming on this year, and then we're actually in the process of prototyping a bunch for next year as well. And then looking at different formats like gummies, and Nooci is for women, but I think that as we build our community, we would love to expand into men or even for children. I think that would be the goal. And Nooci is launched in the US market at the moment, but we would love to be a global brand.
And I just wanted to end this conversation by saying that I do think that your brand has a lot of appeal. I mentioned that we got some of it for my wife, but actually for myself, I'm actually more interested in it than she is. So I think that there is a market there, and maybe that's a sign of myself getting old too. I'm like always going to the market and buying bones to make soup as well, and she's like, you're turning into an old man, and I'm like, well, maybe I am turning into an old man, but I, I just wanted to say that I think that your startup is a great idea, and I'm really excited for the future. And all the best to you, and all the best to Nooci.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to, have everybody be part of the Nooci journey, and would love for everybody to try our products.